Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Cape Expectations. Now we've got loads to get through today. We've had a bit of a break, so we're going to go straight into it with an exclusive interview with Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone, talking about their favourite Batman or Superman.
I got a little carried away with Superman once, and when I was about 8 years old, I dyed a blue shirt, took a crayon, wrote an S on it, took a barber's cape, cut it into points, tied it around my neck, and put it under my clothes. And I sat next to a guy named Jimmy Cole and go, "Hey, Jimmy, don't say anything to anybody, but that's who I really am." Of course, he calls the teacher, and I had to take my clothes off in front of the class. I'm standing with these like rickety, stupid legs, pencil-thin arms, a barber's cape with an S on it that's backwards, blue tights, and so... And I just flew away. You know, so I have to go with Superman, even though Batman has a better costume.
Sure. You think?
No, but I was thinking with that. But they're both. I was, I read Superman. I guess.
You never liked any of these guys, not even Rubberman or none of the guys.
I remember I was hoping that Abbott and Costello would meet Frankenstein, and actually, there was a movie already made. I think before I was born, that I discovered that was my big thing.
That was a pretty amazing story there from Sly.
I'd like to see some pictures of little Sly, because I imagine he looks exactly the same, only like in a little die cap. Like I'm imagining sort of like Artful Dodger type thing in a Superman outfit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was pretty good. And I like the sort of idea of like the grudge match thing. Like you can see, like Robert De Niro went on a tiny bit of a tangent,
just a little
talking
bit
about Abbott Costello, but you can see that sort of like it's interesting to think like they are essentially doing Batman versus Superman in grudge match.
Yeah.
You're seeing like Rocky against
Jake LaMotta.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
that's
like,
a really good point.
And you talk about like, Abbott Costello versus Frankenstein. This sort of idea of putting like things against each other. It's a huge like movie trope, I guess. So,
absolutely, yeah.
It's not called Batman. Well, we don't know. It's not going to be called Batman versus Superman, but it is interesting that you mentioned Batman versus Superman to Robert De Niro, and he comes up with Abbott and Costello versus Frankenstein.
Bless him.
Which is good. But Amy Adams was on Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes.
In the last couple of weeks. Apparently the script is done, and they're going to start shooting very, very soon. Now, we thought they had pretty much started shooting because they filmed some little bits, but we don't know what they were filming.
The football thing, and apparently there was possibly a car chase that might be coming up though.
But Chris Terrio, the guy who wrote Argo, he brought up to give some sort of finishing touches to the script, which
so we found that out relatively recently. So I don't know what version Amy's read, whether it's a pre-touch-up version or
that's a good point.
What,
but I just like the idea that from the start we've said, Ben Affleck just won Best Picture, and what kind of influence is he going to bring? And that's obviously his influence. They've obviously gone, the script is good. I know a guy who writes really good scripts, actually. So I like that idea.
Very much so.
But if they start in shooting, you'd think we're going to see an image of Batman soon, the new Batman.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like I think they've said that they're shooting in February.
Okay.
We will definitely see him in the suit because Warner Brothers will want to take control of that reveal, and they won't want it to come out in like pap shots of Affleck under a blanket.
That's a really
or whatever.
good point.
Just can't really hide the cowl, so they'll release an official image within the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So,
but we asked you guys
what
what you wanted to see. Over on Facebook, Danny Walsh said, so what kind of like costume do you guys want to see? I mean, we've talked about our sort of personal, what we want to see and things like that. Danny Walsh on Facebook says, from what Kevin Smith said about the costume, I'm hoping for the Jim Lee design from Epic Batman Hush Story arc. A lot of people have said Jim Lee.
Yeah.
A lot of people, Jim Lee's Batman.
Matt on Twitter says, screaming, and then all caps, Jim Lee, New 52. Now,
I think it's going to be something like that. I think it's going to be its own thing.
Do you think?
It's going to take little bits and bobs from other things, I think. But
so the New 52, that's black and grey.
Yeah.
And it's black and grey Dark Knight Returns as well, isn't it? So I don't know. I think it probably will be black and grey. I'd like it to be blue and grey. We've discussed this in the past.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, that does connect the new Batman and the Batman that they're using as their reference point. So
yeah. Pascal Graber on Facebook, I really like this one, says, I think the older version of Batman should wear an armor. I prefer the Alex Ross armor from Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that sort of fits in with the older version of Batman. If you're an old person, you need some help in hand, like a Zimmer frame or something like that, so you can understand Batman going for an armor.
Yes.
To give him a little bit of a help, maybe.
Yes, definitely, but that'll be third act where he puts on the armor, you know, and the reveal that we see in a month will be the proper costume.
Yeah.
It's a bit too Iron Man-y if he's in armor throughout the whole thing.
Oh yeah, I really hope it's not like that.
Yeah,
Please
exactly.
don't be like that.
Yeah.
Marcellus Dimensions on Twitter said, they said the suit is not black. If that's the case, then I would like to see something similar to Arkham Origins. But in Arkham Origins, that's the sort of like early doors Batman in the video game Arkham Origins. Sort of later on in the sort of Arkham games, he gets his sort of like black Arkham costume. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be like that, really.
Oh, it would be amazing if it's the blue and grey. I'm so hoping for that. It would look so cool. Chris Rayson says, have to remind myself it's not Nolan, so the dark practicality side will be gone. Would like to see Jim Lee style. Another shout for Jim Lee there. It's very popular.
I like that idea. Roger Summers, to end it, just says, no nipple suits, please.
Fair.
But I think that we can all just agree there's not going to be any nipple suits in it.
No,
They've learned their lesson, right?
I mean, even Joel Schumacher apologised for the nipple suits on the commentary for Batman and Robin, which I have listened to, and it is kind of amazing. So yeah, there'll be no nipples.
Another guy we spoke to this week, straight off the back of Wolf of Wall Street, is Jonah Hill, who had a pretty cool answer, actually, over who his favourite is, Batman or Superman.
Batman, definitely. I like Batman because he doesn't have any powers or anything. He's just a guy who has to be inventive and creative and think of ways to make himself powerful.
So it's a new year. We might have noticed we're in a nice new studio, but
it's all gone a bit Wayne's World too, hasn't
a
it?
tiny bit. Do you think we were going to sell out a little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, I like Pizza Hut, don't you?
But one thing that's keeping us grounded, we'll never change it, is Luther League.
Yeah.
They offered us some money to redo it, but we thought we'd just spend the money on other stuff, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
And if you've got a whiteboard that someone was going to chuck out on a marker, why do you need any updating? So we've moved things around. No real new additions.
No.
I think that's because we've pretty much written every single sort of 30-plus actor down.
Yeah, I mean, if you can think of anyone who's not on this list, that's amazing. Because
let us know.
there's
but yeah,
50 people on there.
We've moved Joaquin Phoenix up to number 4 because just before Christmas there was a huge thing saying that he was definitely going to be cast as Luthor, which we had a pretty interesting conversation about. And one of our viewers, what's his name, Geraint Williams, contacted me on Facebook, on my private Facebook, quite worryingly. I don't know how he got that. Let's not publicize that ever again. But he came up with this awesome poster for it, which you guys can see now. And he gave us that back in November.
Yeah,
when we were talking about it. It's a
really
really nice little poster. But what do you think about him as Luthor? We've talked about it before, like him in Gladiator. I watched Gladiator over Christmas as well. Nice. And yeah, he would be pretty awesome in it. I think he's got quite a lot of buzz around him after Her is about to come out as well. You can understand him doing that. But as we said before, you just think, I think it was you that said you just don't think he'll touch it? Or?
He likes the indie projects.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time he did a blockbustery type thing. Maybe it was Gladiator.
But he's a guy that sort of challenges himself, though, and you think, you know, what's bigger than playing one of the biggest sort of bad guys in the history of bad guys?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to see him do it, but yeah, I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
But another huge rumour that's broken the past couple of weeks, in fact last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's Bryan Cranston again. And that rumour has resurfaced, but with a little bit more credibility this time.
I mean, he's never moved off our top. We've always put him there.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so we can say when he does get cast, that we
inevitable.
Had it there. He is inevitably going to be cast. But yeah, so where was this rumour
So
coming from,
last
then?
week, John Campier, who works for AMC, which is obviously the network that did Breaking Bad, said he tweeted, a few days ago, I heard from 2 separate sources that WB is moving forward with Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor in Man of Steel 2. Now, the fact that he works for AMC makes this quite interesting because the sources could easily be execs who work at that company who are trying to get him in for Better Call Saul or whatever.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe.
I mean, they would know.
But why would he? This is the thing I don't understand with this. why would he tweet it?
I know, right?
Like, I think it's just someone with a little bit of clout who've just gone, this would be funny.
Right,
Tweeting.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why? You wouldn't.
I
Like,
don't know, yeah, you're probably right.
I really don't know. I mean, we do think it's going to be him. He's just won a Golden Globe. Breaking Bad's just won the Golden Globe for Best Drama.
Yeah.
You know, it's all but done now. Everyone, you know, the huge box set has come out.
Yeah.
Better Call Saul's not coming out until November.
Exactly. We haven't heard much about what his next project's going to be.
At all, yeah.
He's got Godzilla coming up.
But that was done and dusted ages ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing. Before Breaking Bad finished, he was in loads of stuff, and he was, you know, announcing different projects, and he, you know, been attached to different stuff. Since Breaking Bad has ended, he's pretty much been chucked on nothing. Yeah. So this morning we had the news that Josh Holloway, who was Sawyer in Lost, who we had on the board at some point, you know, has been tipped for a role. Doesn't say who or what, but I mean, he'd be a pretty good Luther. We've talked about him before.
He would be a cool Luther, though. For me, I mean, looking at him, like, he is more of a Green Lantern type, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe
more
Aquaman.
of a hero type thing. Oh, he'd be an amazing Aquaman, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But a bit old though. Like, he looks old now. Like,
I know, but they're all old, aren't they? Like, Affleck's an old
guess so,
Batman,
yeah.
apart from Wonder Woman, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the thing. But I mean, he hasn't said who he's going to be playing or anything like that. I mean, we've stuck him at number 5 because he was already on our Luther League. So we've stuck him back in number 5 just in case.
Yeah.
Just to cover our bets.
Just
in case someone shoots Bryan Cranston and he can't be Lex Luthor for some reason.
do you know what? He's also a great fit for Green Arrow.
Yeah, that'll be pretty good.
Stick a little beard on him. And
stick a little beard. He probably, he was bearded sometimes in Lost, wasn't he?
Yeah, a bit of stubble.
But a lot of people are saying as well, because, you know, we don't know who he's been cast as, some people have said that, you know, there's going to be multiple villains, which we've talked about the possibility before, and obviously Jason Momoa has been given a role. We don't know what role that is.
Well, actually, I think like a day ago, so you might not have seen it, but he denied all involvement.
Really?
He said, yeah, I'm not doing it. It's a rumour. But then Paul Rudd also said that he wasn't playing Ant-Man.
Yeah.
And
a day before, like, I think we interviewed him.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of amazing. Actually, that video is amazing.
Yeah.
Seek it out on our YouTube channel, because he is, if you ever want to see a man blatantly lying, that's
why you can't trust Hollywood or anyone. But then that's the thing, like, with these projects, people are sworn to secrecy so much. And,
exactly.
You know, if I was a Hollywood actor and I was trying to make, I just don't think I would be on Twitter, because I can't watch my mouth on my own Twitter, let alone if I was being offered like the role of Lex Luthor or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But you've got to think, people aren't stupid. Like, don't tweet anything. Like, has anyone ever lost a role because of something they tweeted? Like, I'm sure they have.
I don't know about tweeting, but certainly, like, Saoirse Ronan, she was in the running for Star Wars Episode 7. She auditioned, and then basically admitted afterwards, she's like, I wish I'd never said anything about it.
Yeah.
Because she said that she'd been playing around with a lightsaber, and then
why?
That was the end of that.
Don't say anything.
Yeah.
That's silly. But we asked, like, if there was going to be multiple villains, who you guys would like to see. Over on Facebook, David Ryuzaki said, Stone Cold as Bizarro.
Yeah.
That's happening. That's definitely going to happen.
That is definitely happening. Dave OF says on Twitter, I'd like an introduction to Doomsday for Man of Steel 3. So introduce him in 2 and then lead on for a bigger role in the 3rd part.
That's interesting, because Edward Neville says it's still too early for Doomsday.
Yep.
That needs to be a back-to-back shot 2-parter with Supes apparently dead at the end of part 1. If there's something we don't want, it's a rush story arc a la the Superman Doomsday animated feature.
Yeah.
So they want to, like, really take their time with Doomsday.
Doomsday will be the end sting. The last shot will be Doomsday.
Yeah.
I'm saying that now. I know it's not out for another year, but you can hold me to that. Definitely.
Well, that's the thing with all these little bits and bobs. Like, everyone keeps going mad as soon as someone is sort of associated with it or linked to it. People are like, "Oh, there's too many people. There's going to be too many things involved." But actually, I think more we learn about it. Stuff like the Wonder Woman thing, I think, has come out in the past sort of couple of weeks. That's going to be quite a small involvement, possibly. And I really like that idea. Like, if it's done well, then, you know, just pepper in the universe with little sort of clues and characters that are going to, you know, become something bigger later on.
Yeah,
I'm all for that.
Yeah, I remember a few episodes ago, maybe more, like long before Wonder Woman was announced, we were discussing how we'd like lots of references.
Yeah.
Like I remember someone on social said they'd like to see a lasso come down next
Yeah.
to a high-heeled boot, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to be a bit more developed than that.
Yeah.
But
that's how you build a universe, isn't
exactly.
it? Like, you know, you're
like
building
Man
this
of Steel
universe.
was peppered with references. Some of
Yeah.
them were really subtle. Like
Yeah.
they required a serious level of geekery to spot.
Yeah.
So if that's sort of the next stage of that in Man
Yeah.
of Steel 2, I'd really enjoy it.
I'm up for it. Just the last word on the multiple villains thing. Over on Facebook, it's quite cryptic. Walter Bezedunhood says, "If I told you guys my idea, I'm afraid you'd maybe steal it." So
He's right.
He's keeping his cards
He's
close
so right.
to his chest.
I've just got one more as well.
Okay.
Brian Lynch on Twitter
Oh,
says,
yeah.
I would like the villain to be illiteracy. So
And that's Brian Lynch who wrote Hop and Puss in Boots and is writing the Minions stuff as well.
correct, yeah, comic book
yeah.
writer as well.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. You wrote Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
And hashtag Cape Expectations.
Yeah,
So
Brian
thanks,
Lynch getting
Brian.
on board there.
Thanks for watching, man.
One guy who I think we've mentioned before, like when we talked about like a different kind of Luther, is Chiwetel Ejiofor, and like there's a load of buzz around him at the moment for 12 Years a Slave, him and Steve McQueen, and we spoke to them about who their favorite was, Batman vs Superman. Now Steve McQueen, notoriously, you know, can be quite a difficult interview. Really got on board with us,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Well, you know, it's always been a funny thing for me, the Batman and Superman thing. But I'd say probably, I'd probably say Batman, just because you kind of relate more to Batman because he's like from Earth, I think. You know, maybe the kryptonite thing is slightly a bit of a tangent to me sometimes.
Why? Batman. Darker, more complex, more human.
Yeah, Steve McQueen there. Turns out all he was waiting for was the right question.
Which is a Batman versus Superman question.
Yeah.
In fairness, like I guess people are asking some pretty tough questions about slavery and racism and stuff, and then we come along with the hard-hitting stuff. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of hard-hitting, apparently there's going to be a car chase scene in Batman vs Superman. So we asked you lot for your opinions on it, and what kind of car you want to see, what kind of chase, and we got some really cool responses actually.
Yeah, like I mean, I have to admit the cars and stuff like that, I couldn't care less about in Batman. Like I don't like I didn't have a like people loved the Tumblr thing. Thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Like I hated the bat in Dark Knight Rises.
what are you talking about,
like,
man?
That's like Transformers, man.
Shut
like
up.
the vehicles for me are like the least important thing when it comes to these movies.
Come on, when it first comes in, when it roars out of the
when it makes the Transformers
alleyway.
noise.
No, man,
for me,
it's cool.
that's straight up Battleship. That is like I'm not on board with that.
Utter nonsense.
But some of
anyway.
these answers, though, have been pretty cool. Jim Chapman on Facebook says, anything but the Tumblr. That's right, Jim, you're right. It was cool enough in Nolan's movies, but I want the classic Batmobile back. Something closer to Burton's vision would be ideal, harking back to the glory days before Batman got too caught up in realism.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I'd like a kind of 50s muscle car, something really cool.
Yeah.
But
I'd really like to see like a way, no, that is Transformers. I was about to say, I'd really like to see a way of transforming like what Bruce Wayne is driving into a Batmobile, but that is straight up Transformers.
Yeah, that's exactly Transformers. Patricia McDowell would like to see a true car chase scene.
Okay.
Roaring engines and screeching tyres, you know, Batman a la French Connection. That is awesome. Thank you, Patricia.
Who would the chase be with, though, I guess? Like, I don't know.
Oh, maybe like, do you know what would be cool? If he's chasing Superman. Like Superman's flying and he's trying to keep up with him.
That sounds like Top Gear, like a Top Gear thing for me.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, they're quite cool. Jim Burness on Twitter says, a practical one that can actually turn corners and doesn't have bright neon lights. See Batman circa 89 to 97.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, it's got to be something exciting, I guess, like that, but it's got to be something that fits into the world. It's going to be something realistic, and, you know, if it's realistic, then it's going to be something that maybe is of this world sort of thing, but at the same time, I don't want to see a Batmobile with an Audi logo on it or anything like that, do you know what I mean? Like, so it has to be completely designed.
It's odd, isn't it, that people want a super realistic car in a film about a man that can fly.
Yeah.
And you know, if we don't have the skills of the cars in Burton's and Schumacher's films, then it won't be able to climb up walls.
Yeah.
And that's kind of important when you're chasing Superman.
Yeah.
Jack O'Brien says, something more sleek than the Dark Knight trilogy, a recreation of the animated series version would be great. Yes, it would. That would be amazing. Though that's quite a long, it's a long car in the animated series, isn't it? But it looks incredible.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Tumbler. Like, although I initially didn't like it, or I just didn't care about it really, it does have a really good part to play in the overall trilogy. Like when Bane comes in and brings in, you know, and then he's got his own tumblers as well.
Yeah.
Like the idea that because Wayne Enterprise were developing these, that there was all these just around anyway. So the fact that it is from this world was actually a hindrance then, because they just ended up with loads of them. So the Bane robbed.
And again, if they are using Dark Knight Returns as a key influence, the Batmobile in that is essentially a tank. It looks very much like the Tumbler. So, I don't know. It is an important part of the Batman mythology.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't just ignore it, Gav.
No, okay, fine. So the last one from this then is Jar on Twitter, who says, a Robin reliant.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Thank you, Jamie, for that.
So we're going to introduce a new feature this week now. So you've heard us waffling on quite a lot these past 9 episodes, and everyone else on the Total Film team wanted to get involved as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. So we're throwing things out to them, and we asked everyone on the team what one thing that they thought, if they had a wish, that had to be in Batman versus Superman. Who do we get in first?
Matt Risley, who's my boss, our online editor.
Okay.
And here's what Matt had to say.
The one thing I want to see from Batman versus Superman is banter. Now, stay with me, because I know that sounds weird, because Superman is inherently quite a kind of Boy Scoutish character, but I feel that in the comics, part of the fun that comes from watching these chalk and cheese characters kind of rub up against each other is kind of the humour that comes from that. So Batman being very dry, Superman being very optimistic, and how that kind of comes out in their fighting and in their working together. So I think kind of, I don't want it to be an Adam Sandler film, but what I would like to see in Batman versus Superman is just a little bit of humour.
So that's about it for this episode of Cape Expectations, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks as ever. And if you've got any suggestions for the Luther League, please tweet us or comment below on this video, and it will go in the next episode.
But that's not the end, Sam, at
No.
all,
Oh,
because
I forgot, yeah.
we've had our first bit of fan art sent in. Unfortunately, we don't feature in the fan art, but this was just a guy who just wanted to share with us some amazing drawing he'd done of Tom Hardy.
And it is pretty good.
It is really good. So we'll let you guys enjoy that.
Yeah, and please, if you want to do any fan art, you know, Batman, Superman, or even the two of us sat on this sofa, please send it in hashtag Cape Expectations.
We'll see you guys on the 29th, and here's that beautiful painting.